Hai, Assalamualaikum. Bertemu kembali dalam Bisnes Alternatif. Anda bersama dengan saya, hos anda, Nurhana Ismail. Minggu ini agak istimewa kerana saya membuat rakaman di Shangri-La kerana minggu ini kami ada Digital Media Asia 2012 yang berlangsung di Kuala Lumpur. Dan saya berkesempatan untuk menemu ramah seorang speaker yang cukup arif dalam bidangnya. Dia ialah Dr. R Garcia, Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif GarciaMedia, untuk berkatakan tentang future, masa depan kewartawanan dalam industri kita hari ini. Dr. Garcia, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you for your time. All right, okay. Now, first and foremost, how do you see the technology can actually help the journalists nowadays?
Well, the technology is a main factor in how we receive information.
Right.
And so if it is such a big factor for the people on the receiving end, for the audience, then we as journalists or as storytellers also have to come to the rescue and change the way that we work.
Right.
I mean, we now have a technology where the news breaks basically sometimes on Twitter, sometimes on Facebook, and everybody is a journalist. The technology allows everybody who has a telephone like you have, or like I have, to become a photographer, a videographer, a reporter. And so that already defines the role of technology as moving very quickly from technology advances for the media, as we've had them in the past. Newspapers went to color, then we had computers, but we were using those as journalists ourselves.
Yeah.
Now the people are armed with tools to become journalists themselves.
Right.
I mean, citizen journalism.
True enough. Which also leads to my next question. What do you see that is a new trend in news consumption?
Well,
Not
and
just
then,
the
yeah,
journalists,
the
of course.
news consumption then is a 24-hour cycle. Used to be in the day of my parents or in my young years, you would have a newspaper at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, and that was your newspaper reading.
Yes.
You might listen to the radio during the day, and then at dinner time in the US, for example, you would have television news. Before you went to bed, you will have the last. That is gone. Right now, we consume information 24/7, and a lot of this information is coming to us freely through our telephones. I mean, you know if the stock market crashed, you know if there has been an airline accident, you know if your favorite sports team scored a goal. And so technology has had probably the most profound effect on what we do in the last 5 years, and we're only at the beginning.
Right. Okay. Now, there's been talk saying that the social media and the digital media will definitely kill the newspaper. How can you actually counter that that perception?
Well, the newspaper will be there, as I always mention in my conferences. No medium kills another medium.
Right.
And I always use the
that.
example. Yes, I always use the example that when newspapers first came out in the 17th century, people say this is the end of the book. In fact, there was a very interesting article titled The End of the Book, because who would read a book now that you had newspapers? Well, books are bestsellers. We have them around.
Yeah.
Television was going to kill the newspapers. Radio was going to kill newspapers. But they are all coexisting. This is the thing. We are in the middle of what I call the multimedia media quartet. You receive information through your phone, online, print, tablet, radio, television. And so you pick at certain times of the day what medium you would like to use.
Yes.
So, but having said that, the newspaper has lost a lot of its footing. The printed newspaper, for members of your generation, for example, is not as necessary because you get all your information digitally. For members of my generation, there is more of that. I mean, they still want to read. But I am a firm believer that the power of disconnect, how a newspaper allows you to just be isolated with no sounds, no beeps, no breaking news, that will have some value. And I think that this is why I believe that printed newspapers will be tools that we will use over the weekend more than Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday, you will get your information through digital.
Right.
But the weekend, you want a big newspaper that you can have an extra cup of coffee with, or sit under a tree or by the fireplace and enjoy it like you do a book.
Yes.
So newspapers that adapt to that change will do very well. Newspapers that want to stay in the old mode with 5 or 6 sections every day that people don't have the time to read, and not accepting that the rest of the information is passed through Twitter and Facebook and telephones, those papers will not have it as well.
So there's no way we should be afraid of shifting from the conventional way of getting the news, but instead we should embrace the digital news and also the social media.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because as I always say, I study journalism because I consider myself a storyteller. These are the best times to be a storyteller. I can now tell a story. When I wrote my digital book, I was able to decide this part of the book, I would not like words, I would like sound. This part of the book, I want a video. We never had this before. So,
and visuals.
Yeah, so writing this digital book for someone my age, of my generation, was an education in how journalists have to think, that the story is not only told through words, like we've done for years, that you can tell a story through a graphic, an animated graphic,
right,
a video, sound. And I think that we never had this before, now we have it. That's why I'm so in love with the tablet and what it can do.
Right, right. Dr. Garcia will be taking a short break. We will be talking more about this digital news and how is it going to help the journalists to in their storytelling. After this, in Bisnes Alternatif, jangan ke mana-mana. Bertemu kembali di Bisnes Alternatif, kita perkatakan tentang era baru bagaimana kita kewartawanan bagaimana kita menulis suatu cerita itu dengan lebih menarik melalui digital media. Bersama-sama dengan saya ialah Dr. Mario Garcia berkatakan tentang hal ini. Right, Doctor. Just now we mentioned about the digital media and how can it help to actually make the storytelling more interesting. Why do you think this journalist should actually try and at least experiment with digital media to make the storytelling more interesting?
Well, first of all, if you look at the readers of the future and of the present, anybody who is between 20 years old, which is when people begin to read a newspaper, and 35, that's the young group, they are very digitally minded. They all have a telephone. They have tablets. They are connecting online. So we have to make sure that we guarantee that that core of readers will know our brand, will come to our brand, whatever your newspaper or magazine is, and then will stay with you. Whether it is through paper, online, phone, tablet, that is not the question. As I mentioned in my presentations, it's not about digital first or print first, it's about the story first. But you have to capture the attention of these people. Right. People of your generation must become accustomed to a brand that they respect,
and
that they feel good
to?
at, that they relate to, and then you have them until they are 60 years old or more. And I think that this is a step that we need to worry about more than whether the newspaper will survive or not. We have to guarantee that our brand, the average newspaper, here in Malaysia, whether you're talking about the Star, the New Straits Times, whatever, these are brands that are recognized. Some people like one better than the other. But if your brand is recognized simply because you saw your parents reading this newspaper or your grandparents reading this newspaper, now it comes time for this newspaper to create the product that you will like to continue that tradition. So to me, that is a main concern. We know that your generation is reading digitally. So that brand, which you recognize, has to be applied to your likes, to your interest.
True. Okay, but I'm sure the editorial will be different from, from this platform to another platform. It will be different. Is the editorial different?
Absolutely. I think that each platform serves a purpose. If we go through the 4 platforms, the telephone, the online, the paper, and the tablet, very quickly, what is the purpose of the telephone? Right now, people do not read long stories on a telephone, but the telephone is for what we call the alert. Something happened. Your team scored a goal. A train just crashed. That 5 lines, you get on your phone. And now you're informed. You could be at dinner, you could be playing tennis, but when you hear that beep, you say, I know that this happened. And that opens up your appetite so that when you get home, maybe at the computer, you go online and now there's more of a story. Now it's not 5 lines, it's 20. The paper tomorrow will have the full story.
Yeah.
The tablet tonight might have the full story.
Yes.
So each of them serves a purpose.
Right. Doctor, we talk about, we have like multiple story techniques and multiple, we have from videos to pictures, you know, that we updated. Now, I'm sure that there's challenge behind building these stories and developing it and making it more interesting. What do you think are the challenges that they'll be facing, and how can we actually help to actually overcome these challenges?
Well, the challenge is that you still work with a lot of print journalists. I mean, it will probably take 10 years to go through the evolution, because you have a lot of 40-year-olds that they have never worked anywhere but in the newspaper. So print people think in terms of stories as words, maybe a photo. Digitally minded people think of the story in a variety of techniques. That is a difficulty, that you don't turn the tablet or the phone into just words where all you do is read stories. That is easier said than done, because what comes to mind first to a journalist is the idea of how many words is your story. And now we have the words, we write a headline, and it goes. In the digital tablets, in the phones, the roles are totally different. Maybe you're doing a story about the first day of kindergarten. You don't need too many words. Let me hear the children singing, audio. Let me see the video of the teacher and the kids. And that story in the tablet will be very different from the way you present it in the newspaper.
Right.
You need, in the future, experts who can see the story for how it will be presented in the different platforms, as opposed to one way.
You have bigger team. Bigger team means more employees.
Yeah, but the journalism schools have to really do the job of training journalists who can think in terms of multi-sensory.
Yes.
All of the different senses.
Right.
The ear, the eye, the brain, and don't forget the finger.
These are the things that we should prepare our journalists.
Absolutely.
Future journalists.
This is
Dr.
the future.
Mario Garcia, it's been an honor talking to you.
Thank you so much.
And I've actually enjoyed your speech just now. Thank you so much. Baiklah, itu sahaja masa yang kita ada di Bisnes Alternatif. Semua saya akhiri, kita lihat dahulu kod ini.